am excited to have Arvel Hedrick with me on this call. Arvel is the owner of Turnkey Capital in Austin, Texas, and welcome, Arvel.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here today with you.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I'd like to point out that I'm actually one of the co-owners, and with Debbie Tam, I'd like to mention her as well, and not forget her, my partner, who's kind of keeps all the wheels on the tracks here for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make sure you say hi to Debbie.
Yeah,
for me.
definitely.
Yep. Great. So today we wanted to maybe check in a little bit, talk a bit about capital raising, I think is, did you have any, maybe before we do that, if you just want to share a little bit about your background and what you like to focus on in the real estate investing business.
Okay, so initially when we first started out, it basically it was just like any other deal sponsor or money partner, or basically someone who gets into private lending. We first started out joining other deal sponsors and participated as money partners. Mm-hmm. And then slowly it kind of transformed a little bit, and then we started deal sponsoring our own deals. Mm-hmm. First small, in the range of about 100 to 200,000, and then slowly, with the mentorship of you, Tom, we started getting into much bigger numbers of the $1 million plus fundings. Mm-hmm. And we had kind of changed our model to more of a joint venture model, which you basically showed us. And our business has just basically exploded.
Excellent.
So it's been it's wonderful now that we have a steady stream of borrowers. Mm-hmm. That we have our due diligence systems in place. Yeah. Builders and control is in place now, and we would where we're at now is. I guess what the reason why for my question today is, Tom, what are some of the ways that you let people know about these fantastic deals that you're finding, or for instance, in our case, we're finding these great deals. Yeah. And so how do we present these opportunities to our investors? Mm-hmm. and
okay,
kind of get these deals funded?
Sure. Maybe just for clarification, just for any of the listeners that might have questions. So when we talk about deal sponsors or money partners, really what that is a way of, it's a broker role of being sort of the middleman, the facilitator between a borrower or someone with a deal comes to someone who has money. So you've got the two sides of the equation, the deal side and the money side, typically where they work together. Now, a deal sponsor or a money partner would or could be someone in the middle, like a hard money broker or a private money lender who works with brokers directly. And that's where the term deal sponsor and money partner really comes from. So if we go from that basis, use that as sort of our basis for this discussion, that's I believe where you're coming from, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So I guess when I think about that question, I go back to initially where I started out. And when I started on the lending side of the equation, I had moved out to San Jose. Didn't really know many people in the Bay Area here. And so one of the things I got to do was get out and really work to meet people, get to know people, and network, that type of thing. So
can you kind of Tom, can you give me examples of where you go to meet
sure,
some of these people for these opportunities?
Yeah. Yep. So initially what I did is I would go to meet with brokers, hard money brokers. That's where I started out. And, you can find them in most any larger city. You can find the hard money brokers if you're a private investor looking to invest with people that have deals. And so that's a good place to start. But Meetups. Meetups really were a good place to get started initially. RIAs, which stands for Real Estate Investment Associations, they're around the country. But if you go to meetup.com, there are all kinds of real estate investment groups. We have a group here in the Bay Area that I started out from. I think we had 7 or 8 people at it initially, and we're up to 2,800 members, a little over 2,800 members now. And so you can tell there's definitely a need for or a demand for investors to have a place to go to meet up. But when searching for places to go or meetings to go to, what I would do is go to meetings where people are interactive. So it doesn't even need to be real estate meetups. It can be, I use the example of cribbage, so card playing type of meetup. It could even work very well because there you're sitting face to face with someone playing cards, or maybe it's even a hiking club or a biking club or a philanthropic organization where people get together and talk about giving back to the community. All of those things are really good because there's a lot of interaction back and forth without the typical, or at least less of the typical classroom sort of sitting where you're just listening to one speaker the entire evening or the entire meeting. So finding groups where there is a lot of interaction, where there's a meeting of the minds on whatever that purpose is that people are meeting for, whether it's exercise or recreation or helping others, whatever that is. Yeah. That was a really good way to get started for me anyway. And where was I going with that? I don't know if it looked like you had a question there possibly.
No, yeah, well, the helping others, because it seems to put us more in line with people who are givers, who are generous. Mm-hmm. And they maybe have more of an open mind to see these kinds of opportunities because they've interacted with you in a social, let's say a social community setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I talk about the real estate investment club that I had started the meetup, and the reason that it's been so successful, it doesn't really have anything to do with me per se, or not so much. It's more the fact that we set out the platform or the goal, the purpose of that meetup is to get people to work together. So every meeting we're always pushing, encouraging, getting people to work together with each other. And now when we have meetings, they're the second Tuesday of every month. And every time we have a meeting, if I've done this a couple of times where I'll ask the people at the meeting, we usually get 80 to 100 people at the meeting, and I'll ask, except for the newcomers that this is their very first time, I'll ask for a show of hands of how many people have worked together with the other people within the room. And it's almost always over 80% of the room has worked with each other. And what's so cool about that is it really is the abundance mindset. It's the idea that there's plenty of good deals to go around. There's plenty of money to go around. There's plenty of everything to go around without having to be afraid of somebody kind of taking away something that we have. So that abundance mindset, the collaboration, working together, or what do they say? A rising tide raises all ships, or something like that. So by everybody working together, that entire group is doing so much better because they're working collaboratively. Everybody's got the alignment of interests. It's just amazing to see that sort of activity. So,
well, Tom, that was one of the seeing your recent meetups and your Facebook Lives with your meetups has been very inspiring to us, and it's kind of set the model for us even now in our own meetups here locally. So it was something very, like I said, inspiring to watch and get to see.
Great. Thank you for that. One thing that I've also noticed that helps out a lot is there are some meetups where, and we do this at our meetup, and certainly not trying to pitch the meetup by any means, but at what we do the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the meetup, we will allow anybody in the room to stand up and give a 30-second, I have this to offer to the group, or I could use this, or I want this, and could use some help from the group. So anybody can get up and say, for instance, I've got a project in Los Gatos, and I'm looking for somebody that can be a general contractor. I'm looking for a plumber. I'm looking for funding on it, or whatever it might be. And that's how people really get to work together. So if you can find that type of a group where people are able to collaborate from that perspective, I think that's really valuable. Another way that just while we're on the topic of meetups is being able to get out and teach. If you, for instance, you've got a great background in finance, you've got a background in real estate investing and lending now, and for you to be able to take that and share some of those bits of knowledge that you have, even to the point of being a presenter at one of the meetups for someone else, because these meetup groups, a lot of times they're looking for speakers, they're looking for good qualified speakers that are doing the business, making things happen, and so. That it's a great way to share with people the strategies that you use, the processes that you use. And by doing that, then they can kind of see what you're doing. Right. I don't suggest pitching. I don't suggest pushing a product or anything, but I do suggest teaching, giving, and eventually people, they get to the point where they start to know you better. They know, like, and trust you. And that's when people start getting to the point of feeling, yeah, I'd like to know more about investing with you. So that's a process that I've noted for sure.
Wow, this has been incredible, just having this discussion with you. And we've talked about a lot of the technical aspects in the past, and just to talk about the mindset. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For basically doing capital raises, debt raises. It's not so much a desperation, or you're not asking for money. Mm-hmm. It's just a presentation of your opportunity and letting that kind of sell itself along with your way of being.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. So true. And I see it, well, two things. One is I see it as there's the initial part, the initial stage of sharing who we are, what we represent, what we're about, maybe at a high level, what our business is about. So sharing that with people that and getting word out about what it is without any specific projects or anything that you might have where investors could participate. So the first stage is really getting to know the people and getting them to maybe understand the bigger strategy of what you're doing, maybe by teaching. So that's a first stage. And then over time, which sometimes it may be 30 days, it might be 3 months, it might be a year before people eventually get to the point where they know enough about what you're doing, or they're ready to maybe check in with you and see if you have investments for them. But the second stage then is once you have a project, or even right before that, I like to have one sort of a stage almost in between, and that is when they start to give you indications that they're ready to look a little closer into it, is to show an investor package or a whatever you have as your offering, but do it with an example deal that's already been funded, or do it with a deal that might be just example numbers and something where you have a watermark across it that says sample only, because that really makes that first conversation with investors so much smoother. It makes it non-intimidating. It really levels things out so that you can feel, both parties can feel really comfortable about just talking about it and getting feedback from that person to see what they might like about it, what they don't like about it, what questions they have. And then it's not anything to do with something that's being offered. So that would be sort of the second stage. Then if we go to the next piece of the second stage, that would be making sure that there is a good solid package with all of the background information, all of the due diligence. You really want to be able to show something that you would want to see yourself, that identifies all the risks that can possibly happen that you can think of on the project. So identifying every single risk and finding a way to mitigate them. Because I would say, if you can't, you got to find the risks. If you can't find all the risks, stay away. Or if you feel like there are risks that you can't mitigate, stay away. And so you're basically laying out everything on the table, along with ways of mitigation, and what you like about the project, maybe what you don't like about the project, or what kind of really being totally transparent, and just letting that tell its story, letting that be what helps them make the decision. So transparency, full disclosure on everything, just laying everything out there, and doing it in a way so it's simplified and staged. So rather than just a big old package of numbers and everything, maybe taking it in stages, so that, and walking them through it. Because when you're doing that, they're going to learn so much more about you. They're going to learn a lot about the potential borrower or money deal sponsor, or the deal partner, whatever it might be. They're going to learn so much more about it. And I think that's going to be really a key thing, is to be able to do it in stages. And so,
got it. Now I'm like, you've got me thinking. My mind all of a sudden is need to develop just a checklist around, basically, I wouldn't say farming, but a checklist for doing these capital and debt raises, starting from the initial contact.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a process. It's relationships. It's a process. The one thing that we should mention too, though, is that with raising capital or bringing on money partners, there are certain guidelines. There are SEC guidelines, Securities Exchange Commission guidelines, because real estate can be or is generally considered a security if it's done through, if it's not done through, well, regardless, it's a security. So you just have to follow the right guidelines. And so, just very briefly, there's this 3-touch rule. It's nothing written in stone, but it's a guideline that's used. So a minimum of 3 touches over 30 days or 45 days, depends on who you talk to. Some say 30 days, some say 45. But the reason for that is just because the SEC feels, and I totally agree with this, that there needs to be a previous relationship. There needs to be a reason, like a way that people have worked together for a certain period of time, rather than having somebody, some slick talker go and be able to pitch something so well that somebody gets drawn in on that first meeting, and that they get sold on emotion and all of that. So just being really careful about following guidelines as it relates to SEC. All of that, I think, is really important. One thing I was going to mention too is that I did a little video clip a while back, and I don't know if you've seen it, Arvel, but it's the 10 ways that finding money partners or raising money is just like dating. So
that's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a lot of the same types of things, and I just jotted them down before the call here. But it's everything from the initial meetup, the meeting people, being dressed properly, going to the right places for it, going with the right attitude, knowing what it is that you want, being interactive in a certain way, not being pushy, not being needy, being fair, loyal, balanced, all of that. So if I just sent it over to Lisa to see if she wanted to post it on YouTube, so that'll probably go up here in a bit.
I will. Yes, I definitely will be looking for that one.
Yeah, but it's really interesting how it's so close to what it is like. I mean, we all know what we like when we talk with people. We know when we feel like we're being buffaloed or not being treated equitably or fairly or whatever. So yeah, that's for whatever that's worth. It was an interesting concept, I thought. So. What else? Let's see. I thought there was something else I was going to mention. Any other thoughts or questions?
I mean, you covered this last portion, just covering the mindset. I thought was so important. And it was perfect.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I think it's really when we're talking with people, if as much as we can, if we can go with what we would feel like if we were on the other side, if we were speaking to ourselves, so to speak, what would make us feel comfortable? What would make us feel like, yeah, this doesn't feel like any pressure. This feels like it's an opportunity, possibly. I've learned a lot, or whatever it is. Just being able to just go with that. Empathy or that feeling of where the other person is at, understanding where they're at, and just being really authentic. Just really coming from the heart. I think that's really important.
I think one of the things you had mentioned before was lead with your heart and not with your wallet.
Yeah. Right. So just thinking about what would it be like if I was on the other side of the equation. I think that's one of the things in my book. I talk about the being able to be in the center and say to either the money side of the equation or the deal side of the equation, in real estate or in anything in life. If you can sit in the middle and be happy swapping seats with the other person, then it's fair. I mean, that's sort of the measurement. That's a guideline to go by is, would I be happy if what I'm offering the other person is exactly what they offered to me? Would I feel like it's totally fair, totally equitable? And if that's the case, then that to me. So anyway, any last thoughts before we wrap it up here?
So I guess we can say it's consistency. Basically, building rapport.
Yep, it takes time. You know what they say? It takes you build. What is the saying? Something to the effect of the trust bucket. You build trust one drop at a time, as the bucket fills up. And all it takes is one mess up, kick it over one time, and you got to start all over. So really building that trust, guarding your reputation, proving yourself, really staying very transparent. All of those things are really part of filling that trust bucket. So
great.
So cool. Well, thank you, Arvel. Hopefully this was helpful. And
definitely, it's always a pleasure. It's like I always learn something new when you and I get together, and it's always incredible. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad it's helpful. If anybody wants to reach out to you, how would they get a hold of you? So
they can reach out to us at info at turnkeycapitalgroup.com. And our website is www.turnkeycapitalgroup.com. And
you're based out of Austin, Texas?
And we're Cedar Park, Austin, Texas. That's correct. So
yeah, great area. Good. All right. Well, it's been great having you, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Bye-bye.